And look how God describes it in chapter 20, the first 3 verses. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having a key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. He laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. Remember, we started out last week, and I had you say 1,000. And you guys, that's when you first started, learning to respond. And 1,000 years, and cast him in the bottomless pit, verse 3, and shut him and set a seal on him so that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years were finished. And after these things, he will be released for a little while. That is a phenomenal portion of Scripture. What's the pit? Well, it's the bottomless pit. And this is when Satan, who has been confined to earth since chapter 12, is now out of circulation. And he's actually put in the bottomless pit, chained. He cannot roam around and cause problems. Remember, he's not omnipresent, but he's very mobile. And he has all these demons. And so they're in the pit. What is this pit? Well, when I teach the Gospels, this is our chart from the Gospels. You see the cross right in the middle, kind of on the angle there. That's that's the earth, that kind of egg-shaped thing. And so you can see the cross. And when Jesus died, it says that he said to the thief dying next to him, "Today you shall be with me where? Paradise, not heaven." Where did he go? No, Jesus didn't go to heaven yet. He goes later. He went to where all the dead were. Did you know that there was this place called the grave, or Hades, Sheol? That's where you read about the rich man and Lazarus. There's this place where everybody, it's not just in Luke. I mean, you ought to see what it says in Ezekiel. Ezekiel talks about all the layers of the civilizations, and as the new group comes in, it says the Assyrians look up, and here come the Babylonians, and the Babylonians look up, and there come the Persians. And I mean, it's this place where all humans that have ever lived are still alive, and they're still on earth, and they're in this place. But half of it, you see, it's kind of the egg with the flames in the forest. Half of it is a place of torment. That's where the rich man finds himself. And he says, could you stick your finger in water and cool my tongue? I'm in torment. I'm in the flames. He's not in hell. Nobody's in hell yet, until we see them thrown in the lake of fire at the second coming. So it's yet future. Look at this. Paradise. Today you'll be with me in paradise, Luke 23:43. And do you remember there was the paradise of God in the Garden of Eden? And remember the cherubim were guarding. Once Adam and Eve sinned, they couldn't come in, and the tree of life was there. Where'd it go? Well, the word paradise, Jesus calls the happy side of this place called Sheol, the grave, Hades. And so it appears to have 2 compartments, where Abraham, Moses, and all them are, and where the rich man and all the ones in torment and agony. So Jesus is crucified. He goes to paradise. Then he cuts over and goes to the abyss. That's where Satan's going to be chained. Right now, Satan's not chained there. The destroyer is in there. All those monster things we studied in chapter 9, the cosmic. How many of you got that right? Chapter 9. Come on. Oh, you guys, they're going to think that you're too smart. They check how many get right and how many wrong, and you guys are going to just be too smart, and they're going to think that you're too smart and make it harder. But the abyss is in Luke 8:31. The demons didn't want to go there. It's in Revelation 9 that you remember. It's in Revelation 20. The chain there reminds us that's where Satan is taken right now, to the pit, the bottomless pit. But you notice there's a little kind of like rotten spot in the abyss, that Tartarus place. Oh, that's what's so fun about Bible study. Did you know that Jude and 2 Peter talk about that place? That's where the worst of the worst, the ones who are in everlasting chains under darkness, are kept, because they were trying to destroy all humanity at the flood. And they infiltrated humanity, and they were demonizing the whole world, and all that's going on there. Jude talks about it. What does Jesus do? It says in 1 Peter 3, he went and preached to the spirits in prison. When you study 1 Peter, that's a curious verse. What happened? Well, when I do the Gospels, I say he died on the cross. He went down during the 3 days to paradise. He empties out paradise. He goes over and proclaims his victory in the abyss. And then he steps out. See the brown Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday tomb? He steps out of the tomb, and then he ascends on the 40th day and goes to heaven and sits at the right hand of the Father. And the next time we find paradise, it's not down there anymore. In Revelation to the 7 churches, it's back in heaven. It's very interesting. So, notice what I didn't talk about, the fire over there on the right, Gehenna, lake of fire. It's talked about, what I just read in Matthew 25, it's talked about in Revelation 19, and look, it's where we're headed right now. And so that's just a little tour of the underworld, I call it. And Christ gives us this tour. He goes from the cross to Sheol, paradise, proclaims his victory to those in Tartarus. He steps out of the tomb. Number 4, he ascends after 40 days, which, by the way, the Apostle Paul says at his ascension, it says he led captivity captive and presents gifts and all. It's almost like this triumphal procession to heaven. He takes all those saints from paradise with him. Oh, there's a lot of stuff that is very interesting to study. In Matthew 27, did you remember when the veil was rent, that it says the earth rent and there were huge earthquake, and it says that many graves were opened, and it said that saints in graves all over Israel came to life. But you know what? It's a curious verse. It says, but they didn't come out of the tomb until Jesus did. I think in pictures. Can you imagine that Passover weekend? You're walking down through your field and you see this ancient tomb is cracked open, and you think, whoa, that earthquake must have done it. So you went over to examine to see if there's any treasure, and as you leaned over looking down into that tomb, you saw 2 eyes looking at you, and they said, hi. They say, who are you? They go, oh, hi, I'm, Abishadai from the Old Testament. I just was resurrected. Jesus is coming out of the tomb. I mean, it says they were alive in those tombs and waiting to come out when Jesus came out. You ought to read chapter 27. I love reading the Bible. It's better than fiction, science fiction, and all those romance novels put together, And then he ascends. He goes to heaven. He's on the right hand of the Father. And when Paul goes to see Jesus in 2 Corinthians 12, he sees the paradise of God. And so does Revelation 2:7.